My wife's contempt arrived on my 38th birthday in the form of a $10 gift card. For a meal that matches your ambitions. Note read. She had no idea what ambitions truly burned inside me. My name is Evan Andrews. I'm 38. For the past decade, I've worked as a civil engineer specializing in sustainable infrastructure. Not the kind of job that makes headlines or turns heads at cocktail parties, but the kind of work that actually matters. I design bridges, tunnels, and water systems meant to outlast me by a century. My work is solid, dependable. Everything my marriage turned out not to be. Our trouble began 3 years ago, when I turned down a promotion that would have relocated us to Houston. Emma, 12, and Jason, 9, were finally thriving where they were. Emma had made the competitive swim team. Jason had teachers who understood his ADHD. Uprooting them felt selfish. So, I declined the move. "You've got to be kidding me," Catherine said that night, still in her office clothes. That was a 6-figure position. "I know what it was," I said calmly. "And I know what our kids need right now." She slammed her wine glass down. "What about what I need? Another year in this mediocrity?" The word mediocrity became her favorite weapon. Our 4-bedroom colonial in a good school district was suddenly mediocre. My reliable Honda was mediocre. My steady career, which I had always been proud of, was mediocre. 6 months later, she landed a job at Meridian Advertising, one of the state's prestige firms. Galas, client dinners, weekend team retreats filled her calendar. Her boss, Richard Vaughn, became a recurring subject at our increasingly rare family dinners. Richard says, she would begin. At Richard's lake house, she would mention I tried to be the rock for Emma and Jason, while Catherine drifted farther away. I didn't know then that the foundation I'd spent years building was about to be tested, or that the engineering skills I used to design structures that withstand storms would soon be needed to rebuild my life. The breaking point arrived on my birthday. I expected a quiet morning, pancakes, maybe a card. Catherine had been distant for months. Instead, on the kitchen counter, sat a small envelope. Inside was a Burger King gift card and a note in Catherine's elegant handwriting, for a meal that matches your ambitions. "Happy birthday to my mediocre husband," stood there with coffee halfway to my lips. The words hitting like a punch to the gut. Emma walked into the kitchen and saw the card. "Is that your birthday present, Dad?" she asked, bright-eyed. I slipped it into my pocket. "Just a little joke from Mom," I said, forcing a smile. "Hey, pancakes this morning?" The day went downhill from there. Catherine didn't come home that night. "Client emergency," she texted. I tucked the kids into bed and told them Mom was stuck at work. Jason asked if we could celebrate properly on the weekend. "Every day with you two is a celebration," I told him. After they fell asleep, I sat in my home office with that card in my hand. 15 years of marriage, reduced to $10. I opened my laptop and typed, "Richard Vaughn, Meridian Advertising." Curiosity had long been a dangerous companion. The next day, I called Tom Wilson, my college roommate, now a corporate lawyer. Over sandwiches, I told him everything. "She's having an affair with her boss," I said quietly. Tom's face darkened. "That's rough," he said. "What are you going to do?" I didn't know yet. Divorce felt inevitable, but the kids were everything. Then Tom told me something else. Meridian Advertising was in trouble. Major clients were leaving. There were whispers of financial improprieties. It's the kind that attracts serious attention. An idea that had once seemed too risky suddenly made sense. Over the years, I had developed patents for sustainable infrastructure innovations. I had received acquisition offers before, but always turned them down to avoid risk for my family. Now I had nothing left to lose. Within weeks, I sold my patents to a sustainable technology firm for $4.2 million, far more than I had expected. With Tom's guidance, I formed a holding company called Cornerstone Investments. It's designed to conceal my identity during share purchases. At home, I kept up the pretense of ordinary work. Catherine barely noticed. The kids noticed everything. One night, I found Emma sitting alone in the dark living room. "Are you and Mom getting divorced?" she asked quietly. I swallowed. "I don't know yet," I said. "But whatever happens, both your mom and I love you and Jason. That will never change." Emma's voice turned bitter. She missed my swim meet to be with Richard. I hugged her and promised I would fight for our family. Soon, Tom called with news. Cornerstone had quietly bought 18% of Meridian through various channels. Major shareholders were selling quickly. Richard has been falsifying client billing, Tom explained. Charging premium rates, delivering budget work, and pocketing the difference. Can we prove it? I asked. With access to their financial systems? Absolutely. I thought about Catherine's new wardrobe, the expensive perfume, the late nights. She had given me a Burger King card, thinking she had humiliated me. She had no idea I had just bought into her company. Let's move forward, told Tom. How much more for controlling interest? Over the following weeks, Cornerstone increased its stake from 18% to 26%, then to 34%. Enough to influence the board? I also hired a private investigator to gather evidence of both the financial fraud and Catherine's affair. Not for revenge, but to protect myself in the custody battle I feared was coming, the quarterly. Board meeting arrived on a Tuesday. Morning walked into Meridian's downtown headquarters wearing a tailored suit. Catherine had never seen the chairman open the meeting. We have a new major stakeholder joining us today, he announced. I stood. My name is Evan Andrews, I said calmly. Representing Cornerstone Investments. Then I revealed that we held 34% of the company. When the agenda turned to executive performance, I asked to speak. I laid out the evidence. Manipulated invoices, shell companies, diverted funds traced directly to Richard Vaughn. I handed folders to each director, filled with client testimonies, bank records, and internal emails. The room fell silent. Richard's composure cracked first. This is preposterous, he sputtered. Who the hell are you? The chairman reviewed the documents slowly. These allegations appear substantiated, he said. I moved to call for a vote of no confidence. And for Richard's immediate suspension pending a full audit, the votes were tallied, 7 in favor, 3 against. Richard Vaughn was escorted out by security, rage twisting his face. Later that afternoon, my phone buzzed. A text from Catherine. What the hell did you do? Richard is ranting about you at his board meeting. I didn't reply when I arrived home. Catherine was pacing in the living room like a trapped animal. Explain yourself, she demanded. How did you get into that boardroom? What did you do to Richard? I set my briefcase on the coffee table and pulled out the Burger King gift card. You gave this to me, I said quietly, for a meal that matches my ambitions. Then I told her everything. I had sold my patents, created Cornerstone, and acquired controlling influence in Meridian. Richard had been suspended because he had broken the law. This is revenge, she said bitterly. No, I replied calmly. This is consequences. I opened my briefcase again and slid a folder across the table. I filed for divorce. The papers are inside. She collapsed onto the couch. You can't throw away 15 years, she whispered. You already did, I said quietly. The night you started sleeping with Richard? In the days that followed, business headlines carried the story. Financial investigators opened a case. Catherine moved out temporarily. The kids stayed with me, Emma eventually asked. Without judgment. Are you the one who got Mom's boyfriend fired? I exposed wrongdoing, I told her honestly. And yes, part of my reason was how they hurt us. Jason called me a superhero. I didn't feel like one. I felt determined. But the backlash came quickly. Someone attempted to access my bank accounts. Richard's allies started digging for dirt. Catherine filed counterclaims in the divorce, accusing me of using marital assets without consent to fund Cornerstone. Threatening messages began arriving on my phone. This isn't over. I'll destroy everything you built. One text included a photo of our house. I contacted the police and upgraded our security. I refused to be intimidated. On the morning of a temporary custody hearing, Catherine came to the house wearing a conservative suit. Call off the lawyers, she said quietly. We can work this out privately. She looked exhausted, ashamed. Richard's career is ruined. He's leaving the country, she said. I want to rebuild with the kids. I listened carefully. Emma's earlier question had clearly shaken her. For the sake of the children, I proposed a compromise. I would keep primary custody. Catherine would begin with supervised visitation, gradually increasing as she rebuilt trust. She would drop all claims against Cornerstone and cooperate with the investigation. She agreed. Over the following months, Richard settled with regulators and quietly left the country. Catherine began rebuilding her relationship with the kids. She took a job at a smaller agency, showed up to swim meets and school events, and slowly tried to earn back trust. Cornerstone continued to grow, but I stepped back from daily control once new leadership was in place. My priorities returned to Emma and Jason. 6 months later, we stood at a bridge ribbon-cutting ceremony. I had been the lead engineer on the Westlake Bridge project, which used elements from my patented sustainable designs. Emma and Jason insisted on skipping school for their dad's big day. A reporter asked why I chose to focus on this local bridge instead of higher-profile projects. I looked at my children and smiled. Because some things matter more than prestige, I said. This bridge connects communities, and it's the place where my children are growing up. That evening, we celebrated at home with pizza. Catherine stopped by briefly with cupcakes before leaving for an evening class. She was rebuilding her life, one step at a time. Later that night, when I turned off the light in my office, I noticed the Burger King card still sitting in my desk drawer. I smiled. It wasn't a symbol of humiliation anymore. It was a turning point, the moment I decided to reclaim my life. What I learned from all of it is simple. Real strength isn't measured by titles or bank accounts. It's measured by the people you choose to protect and the principles you refuse to abandon. Betrayal forced me to act, but not with bitterness alone. With patience, with resolve. In the end, I built something stronger than revenge. I rebuilt my life, my family, and a future that would last.